There we go. Now, we are going to reintroduce ourselves. I'm Crystal and
Rebecca.
Rebecca. We've been away for a minute. We were on mute, and we do not want to be on mute, but I'm Crystal Dillard. This is my co-host, Rebecca Williams, and thank you for joining us tonight for my Crystal Loves Texas podcast. Since Rebecca and I have been away for a minute, have we got some things that we want to throw at you tonight? And we want to do a shout out first to our very good friend, Michelle Williams, for state representative, Texas House District 127, after in humble Kingwood Spring, out there. She is speaking up and making the voice of teachers and educators and schools, public schools, heard out in that area. And you got to get out and support her. She is accepting block walkers, phone bank volunteers.
I'm phone banking.
And I'm block walking. Yes. So Michelle Williams, her state representative, Texas House District 127. We got you, Michelle.
Hold on. And before we move any further, I just want to add context to that. The reason Michelle's seat is so very, very important is because it's currently held by one of Abbott and Trump's cronies. And we are looking to flip that district.
And it's looking very, very good.
Right. So this is what we're asking. Michelle is a strong proponent for public education.
And Rebecca, before you even go forward, you can really give a backstory on this. Why is Michelle such a strong candidate? What does she stand for? What have we seen her in around town lately? What's been going on with her?
So she was a former teacher in Houston Independent School District, and I say former as in 3 months, I guess, give or take. But she was railroaded by HISD, Houston Independent School District, because she was asked to do some unethical, immoral activities that could have gotten her license in the state of Texas revoked under normal times.
Right.
So the thing, and I'm gonna put it out there because it's already out there, it's already public knowledge, so I'm not stating anything as such hush. She was asked to not give special education children their accommodations, which we all know in the state of Texas that is a felony and could get your license revoked. Revoked to
And
the
it's not
point.
just a state law, it's a federal law.
That's the point I was getting to. Not only will it get your license revoked in the state of Texas, you will be blackballed from education everywhere.
Absolutely.
You will not be picked up by anybody. So, and not suspended. Suspended, there's a chance you can get your license reinstated. Once it's revoked, it's gone forever.
Right.
So, any teacher or any educator coming into the system, that is one of the first lessons that you learn in quote unquote teacher school is when children have accommodations, if they have IEPs, if they're assigned IEPs, which is individualized educational plans, you have to follow those plans to the letter.
And she stood 10 toes down and defended that position. And many of the powers that be were not happy with that. So we are definitely in Michelle's corner. We know that she's going to be victorious in November, and we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that she crosses that finish line. But Rebecca, summer's here, and we've got some things that will be taking place in the fall that have never been part of the Texas education system heretofore. And one of those, and I'm going to let Rebecca speak to that because she's been following this. She's been up at the State Board of Education, tested with her testifying on behalf of teachers and the curriculum. But Rebecca, what is going to be happening with the social studies curriculum in September?
Let me speak to this, and then I'm gonna get to that. And just real briefly.
Uh-huh.
I swear people think that I don't have a life outside of
We know you do.
politics and education because it's just like, my God. But so I am a social studies teacher by trade. Crystal is also a social studies teacher, and one of the things that is being challenged and was no longer being challenged is the law of the land now. It's the social studies curriculum
For Texas.
for Texas. So social studies comprised of 3 through 12th grade, really K through 12th grade. But if you know anything about the subject matter, it repeats itself all throughout elementary.
It's scaffolded.
It's scaffolded all through elementary, middle school, high school, right? So in 3rd grade, you learn about world history. In 4th grade, you learn about Texas history. In 5th grade, you learn about U.S. history. You double back 6th grade,
World history.
world cultures.
Mhm.
7th grade, Texas history. 8th grade, U.S. history up until 1865.
Mhm.
High school, world geography, 9th grade. World history, 10th grade. 1865 to present U.S. history, and then in 12th grade, government and economics.
Correct.
So that is the broad scope of the social studies curriculum. Now, what is being changed is all of those things that I just mentioned. A lot of those pieces are going to be retaught in different ways.
Amended. Yes.
Seriously amended.
Yeah.
In different ways.
How, Rebecca?
Well, for one, Texas history will be taught from 3rd through 12th grade.
Okay.
Okay. Why do you ask? Because the powers that be feels it's important. I don't know. One of the major pieces that stood out in the curriculum,
Different, yeah.
because I looked at the curriculum and I was highly disgusted. And if you follow me, you saw the video that I made while I was in Austin. One of the things that's going to be different is that, for instance, the Civil War, which is 8th grade, they learn the Civil War in 8th grade, 5th and 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about the Civil War, instead of the United States winning, the Union Army winning, they are going to make a footnote of that and expand that Texas itself actually won the Civil War. Okay. Now, for those of you that's like, what? This is what I mean. So, the Union Army surrenders at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. Jefferson Davis concedes. He raised the white flag. And that's where it stops, right? No, according to Texas history, according to the new Texas curriculum, they're going to double back. While Jefferson Davis was surrendering at Appomattox Courthouse, Texas was still fighting on the seas in Galveston.
They had not gotten the word yet that the Confederacy had surrendered.
Right.
And that is truthful.
That is truthful. And because of them still fighting on the Navy, still fighting on the seas, Texas ended up seizing a Union boat, and the Union ended up surrendering to Texas. Again, they were, still fighting on but the war was already over, right?
Correct.
So they want to say that instead of the South winning the war, Texas history now is going to say Texas won the Civil War. I wish I was making this up. This is in the actual new curriculum that is being taught. And then they are going to make Richard Dowling, who was the captain of the rebellious army, the rebel army, rebel navy. They are going to paint him as this hero and savior of Texas, while they have a little footnote about Ulysses S. Grant, who was the army Union captain that captivated the war.
So And this is what I said. I'm a U.S. history teacher, and I teach colonization up to Reconstruction. And unless it is specifically indicated, now I saw the way that the TEKS had been amended last year, and basically it said that if certain parts of the curriculum are offensive to certain teachers, that they didn't have to teach it if they were offended by it.
This time.
However, unless it states specifically that you may not teach this other aspect, I will teach that in addition to the waiver.
But see, Crystal hadn't seen the new curriculum. I have.
No.
I'm just saying, you haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it, and there will be no changes to it. This, according to what State Board has put out, there will be no changes to the curriculum. You have to teach the curriculum as is,
And
as it is written.
And that's okay. But even all the years that we've been teaching, you can add stuff to it as long as you teach what's there. Now, let me say this. We're gonna put a pin in that for right now. But Rebecca, what's another thing that we have found to be absolutely mind-blowing that will be happening this year in public schools in terms of funding and
There was no vote on the vouchers from the public. There was no referendum. There was no bill. The state of Texas took it upon themselves to go ahead and pass the voucher themselves. So the vouchers are here, and they will be handed out starting August of 26, which is next month.
Right.
Because this is July the 3rd.
Right.
So, with that being said, you have schools now that will be itching.
Schools that have popped up out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I am getting ads every day of schools that I had never ever heard of.
Right.
On my FYP for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm like, I've never heard of this school before.
Right.
When did this school come? I do understand there are a lot of charter schools, but these schools are brand new, out of nowhere, starting to pop up out of nowhere.
Right.
Even now, they're having homeschool networks that are reaching out to former teachers and retired teachers.
Absolutely.
And they're popping up like out of nowhere.
They are.
And the reason they're popping up because they're getting funding from the state government. Now, you may ask, how is a private institution getting state funded money? The only answer that I can give, and the only correct answer to that, is because the governor allowed it.
Absolutely.
The state legislature allowed it. So what does that mean for, well, let me backtrack. Last year, we went to Lobby Day.
Right.
Crystal and I went to Lobby Day, and Lobby Day is
with the union, the teachers union.
The day where, we go lobby for things that teachers need, public schools. And Crystal can attest to what I'm about to say. One of the things that I had asked our Republican friends and our Democratic friends, how was all of this going to be paid for? That was the $1 million question.
Absolutely. It still is.
And Crystal, what was some of the responses that I got?
Well, you got the doors closed in your face because no one wanted to answer that question when we went to some of the lawmakers who were the GOP lawmakers in Austin. They did not want to answer that question because I don't even know if they had been given a straight answer by the governor.
And see,
it was going to happen.
One thing I will say, and again, this is not my bias showing, I'm just telling you what happened.
Right.
A lot of the Democratic people that I talked to, the Democratic representatives that I talked to,
yes,
they flat out looked me in my face and said, we don't have an answer to that question. And I talked to several of them, not just mine,
right,
others that are representing around the state of Texas. And then the Republicans either slugged the door in my face or tried to deflect or tried to turn things back around on me as if I'm a proponent of the bill. So it was really, really weird. I do know what I did already have knowledge of is that we had a $66 billion rainy day fund.
Yeah.
That was given to us by the Biden administration due to COVID and the pandemic.
Correct.
And that money was supposed to be allotted to the different districts across the state.
Has that money been touched, Rebecca?
And the money has not been touched.
Right.
A lot of the programs that went on strictly during COVID and some of the programs that the districts wanted to keep because they found out these programs work, like wraparound services, for instance, in HISD, and just other programs that districts were using money for, known as ESSER funds, right? These that money was to. Now, we were told that the ESSER funds, and ESSER funds are just basically state money that's given for special purposes, right? So these ESSER funds were given out, and all the superintendents around the district were saying, "Oh, these our ESSER funds are drying up, and because our ESSER funds are drying up, a lot of the programs that were paid out of these funds can no longer exist because we no longer have the money." Well, we still have a $66 billion rainy day fund that money could have been used for. Now, from what I understand, they've used that money for TIA purposes, teacher incentive allotment, which that money was not supposed to be used for that. They've used that money for raises for teachers, the $5,000 raise if you were a teacher 4+ years in the district, the $2,500, the $1,000. Right. But a lot of that money was not used for what it was allotted for. One thing I believe Biden dropped the ball was he believed that the states were going to use the money
in earnest
to do what they needed to do for the districts, for the students, teachers, and employees, faculty, and staff.
Right.
But I think Biden didn't realize we live in the South.
Well, and
we're in a red state.
So with that in mind, this is what I want to say. I'm going to jump in right here because, ladies and gentlemen, that's why it's so important for us to get out, make sure that people are registered, and get people to the polls. I don't care if you are a Democrat or a Republican who is appalled at what's going on now in Texas as far as education is concerned. Any type of privatization of education, and I mean even through charter schools. A charter school is run by a private entity. Anytime you have a private entity that is running a school, there are guidelines and structures and laws that they don't have to abide by that public schools must.
Exactly.
If they decide that they don't want to have football, they don't have to have it. If they don't want to have cheerleading, they don't have to have it. If they don't want to have special education at their campus, they don't have to have it. Anytime you have a private entity that is overseeing themselves, that's a recipe for disaster. Charter schools do not have the same oversight as public schools.
No, they don't.
And the thing about it is, many of them don't even give a STAR test. Okay, if public schools have to give a STAR test and they've got to be accountable to the state, every school, every entity in this state should have to have the same guidelines that they go by. Now, Rebecca, as far as the things that are offered, the offerings that these schools have, when it becomes privatized, you have a situation whereby if you want to not accept, and we've talked about this in great detail, if you want to not accept students who are part of certain communities, you don't have to. If you do not want to accept students who have learning challenges, you don't have to. If you don't want to accept students who are part of the LGBTQIA community, you don't have to. And Rebecca made this clear last January. You don't even have to give a reason. Charter schools and private schools can do that. So right. If you have a student who fits squarely into one of those categories, or even if they don't, but if they look at your student and say, I just don't think that student fits the, what do they call it? fits the
criteria.
well, if they don't, if that student does not fit the picture of what the students at our school look like, they don't have to accept them. It's vital. It's vital that we have strong public schools that are good, that are accessible to all of our students, and that can match the education and the offerings of any private school around. So that's why the funds don't need to be diverted.
And here's the thing too, and I'm just I just giving y'all a very, very, very brief history on vouchers. Vouchers actually were used because people were upset, especially in the South. People were upset about the Brown versus Board of Education decision.
Integration. Yes.
Integration. So they had to, when I say they, the Southern governments
Yes.
had to figure out a way to keep certain demographics out
Of their schools.
of their schools. And because now you had, well, not even gentrification, you had people moving into neighborhoods and different things when they became upward mobile, those schools had become integrated.
Right.
So the vouchers were always used as a way to keep kids out of what they deemed out of their norm. So that's what the whole voucher.
And keep this in mind. Parents would use those vouchers in order to pull their kids out of the public school system that had to accept everyone and put them in some fly-by-night private school that was opened up with the sole purpose of excluding certain demographics.
Right, and you have a lot of, and now especially a lot of the well-to-do, the well-known private schools now, especially in the city of Houston, they have already stated that they are not taking vouchers, which
Yes.
they have a right to do.
Right.
They have stated they have not taken vouchers. They have said themselves, their representatives of the schools said themselves, that they have wait lists.
That's right. They don't
So
have to
if
take
they want children to fill seats, they have lists to choose from. So there is no need.
full pay.
Right. There's no need for them to have the voucher.
Right.
So which we knew that was coming
Yeah.
down the pipe, especially Crystal, because she's a product of private school. So now what do you do with this money? Right. So you have these private schools that are saying, no, we're not accepting vouchers.
So if I'm an unscrupulous person, let's role play here. Rebecca, we are two unscrupulous teachers who have decided, we want to get in on some of this voucher money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Rebecca, let's go and apply to open up a private school. Okay. Now, mind you, let's say hypothetically, Rebecca and I haven't been in the classroom in 20 years. Okay. But you know what? We need to get in on some of this voucher money. So we're going to go open up a school in a 4,000 square foot building over there. We're going to have one room for each grade level. We're going to take that K through 12. Okay. And we are going to, it's only the two of us who are the teachers. So we're going to turn on some videos that teach math. We're going to turn on some videos that teach history. We're going to turn on some that teach English, and we'll walk through and make sure the video's playing. So, but we can take a voucher. So we can say that we are a private school. My point being this: you don't have to have a record of excellence.
Curriculum.
No, and you don't have to show a pattern of excellence and success to do this. So we have a recipe for people to cheat from the top to the bottom with all of this. And there are some charter schools, which are private entities,
Right.
that are running in Texas and in parts of Colorado, who have not shown a pattern of excellence, and where the schools have closed down in parts of where's Amarillo? Is it Ector County or whatever? And,
Midland.
who have not shown patterns of excellence, but that doesn't seem to matter.
Right.
That's an issue, ladies and gentlemen. Let's let here's the thing. Yes, I'm a product of public and private schools. However, my mother did not send me to private school with the assumption or with the hope that someone else would foot that bill. She said, whatever sacrifice that I'm going to have to make, I'm going to make it on my own because this is what I want for my daughter. And it was not a situation of being elite on my part, but I needed extra help in math. Okay. So I went to a private school. But here's the thing. There are people
private. I tease her all the time
Mhm.
because when we having funny little arguments, I'm like, okay, Crystal, you are the private school child. I had to learn with everybody else.
but I'm a public school teacher. I've been like all in my life. And my sister is a product of public school. So we know that excellence can come from each one of those entities.
But I'm joking. But
Uh-huh.
Crystal does not wear private school on her lapel, like at all. Like,
Is that a thing? I didn't know it was a thing, but you know, our point is this. Let's keep that money. There is not one dime of public school money that the taxpayers go into their pockets. And when they're paying their property taxes,
oh,
and
I'm so
pay
glad you
for-
brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up.
and pay for, that needs to be going to fund someone's choice to put their child in private school. That needs to go into public schools. Now, we've got a friend right now, and hey, Carlin, he's listening to us. They're on their way back from Dallas, and he's getting ready to open up a private school. And he thought about doing charter initially, but they're doing their feasibility right now for this school. But there are places for private and charter schools with certain criteria.
And then
To
Carmen
me.
too. And Carmen, and I'm gonna say this, Carmen is qualified.
Absolutely.
He was a teacher, he's
Principal.
a principal,
Military.
you know, and I think he has his superintendent's license. I think. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen. Okay. So you have people like that actually want to make a difference. They see something that
A need that needs to be filled.
and a need that needs to be filled and addressed
Right.
that the public or charter schools are not filling. I don't have a problem.
Explain the one that is for Carlin.
For Carlin, it was a lot of, if I'm not mistaken, Carlin buzzed in, but it wasn't a lot of our Black boys that were being
Well, any boys that have been
kicked out.
expelled from the public school system, and the only other option that they would have would be going to the county schools, which is like the
They can't even
the
go to
jail
charter
school.
schools with the
Yes.
records that they have.
Yes, so those ones that no one wanted to deal with him being a Marine colonel, he said, you know what? That should not be the end of the road. If these students, are still living and breathing, and they want to try to turn it around, let's give them an opportunity to do that. So that is his concept, and there is a dire need for it.
And again,
Yes.
I go back to this. Carlin is qualified,
Yes,
right? So, I mean, he had all of the training on how to run a school properly, the business side of running the school, the governance
he's been a
side
principal. That's right.
of running a school.
Yes.
So he has it. But then you have people who are not like Carmen, who are just, oh my God, I want to make a difference. And Crystal and I have talked about this.
Hey, they're giving out charter school licenses. Rebecca, let's go up there and get one.
Right. So, and as long as I've been in education, I don't have the skill set to run a school.
No.
I can admit that. Leadership maybe, but past that, I don't have the skill set to run a school.
Because you've got to have a background in being able, in the business aspect of it, in the community, outreach aspect of it, in the discipline aspect of it, there's so many aspects that you need to, if you don't have it, you better sure put someone in place that's got that background, or else you're going to get your tail caught in a crack.
Right.
And that's why it's so important that people who are in these spaces have the right background for it.
Exactly. And this is what we're saying. Now, let me go back to the property taxes, because that's what I wanted to touch on. Crystal brought up property taxes. So now I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to my homeowners and my business owners that are occupying commercial buildings. Or let me explain what is happening. So now the governor has proposed that Texans pay no property taxes.
Who funds our schools in Texas,
I'm
Rebecca?
getting ready to get there. And let me just say this on an empathetic note, okay? I empathize with all property tax owners, right? Bad enough you already got to pay a mortgage. You have to pay your mortgage, and then you have to pay property taxes on top of paying your mortgage. And then after your mortgage, you have paid for your mortgage and you have outright owned your home, you still don't outright own the land that your property sits on. So I get it and I understand it. I don't want people to think that I'm being flippant but I definitely empathize with what you're going through. But on the flip side of that, right? The way our state funding is set up, school property taxes and state money pays for our schools.
Right.
Everybody used to say all the time, and it still stands as of now, I'm guessing, that HISD is a property rich district, right? The reason that HISD is a property rich district because HISD sits in every lucrative piece of property in the city of
Harris
Houston.
County, yes.
Okay, you have property in the ship channel. You have HISD has property in the ship channel. HISD has property in the medical center. HISD has property in NRG and the NRG district. The medical center.
River
The Beatty sits in the medical center.
Right.
River Oaks. You have Lamar. You have Lanier. You have Park Elementary. So this is why Houston Independent School District is a property rich district because it occupies all of the rich property in the state. In the city of Houston.
And the county.
And the county.
Yeah.
Right? So now when you're talking about having the to not pay property taxes, that is removing excess money from public schools out of the hands of the people, which means that your elected boards will no longer be. We already are dealing with that problem right now in Houston Independent School District.
Circle it back, Rebecca, make it so simple for them to understand. Basically, if we take away property taxes, schools don't get any money.
That's it. And you don't have any say-so in how your schools are ran. Pay attention to what's going on with HISD, Fort Worth ISD, Beaumont ISD, Austin ISD is getting ready to be taken over in 2026, August 2026. All of these, if you notice, there's a huge sweep of districts that are being taken over, and there's still 9 more additional districts that are proposed to be taken over by the state.
Right.
The state wants full control over the school districts because they want say in what is taught, who is hired, and they also want to dismantle the teachers' unions,
right,
that are the protection for the teachers. So pay attention, and they want to be in charge of what's being taught. Now, I know some of you saying, Rebecca, but don't the state set the curriculum? Yes, but the districts allow teachers autonomy to teach said curriculum the way it needs to be taught, right? But when you no longer have those protections, the state is in full control.
So when you basically, ladies and gentlemen, when you elect a governor, when you know, a lot of times people don't even realize this, but it's so much more than just pulling or pushing a button in that ballot booth for a person's name, this person or this person. When you elect a governor, please understand, it directly affects exactly what's going to happen in your schools. Right now, we have a governor and a national government that want to control what people are learning. They want no room for critical thinking. They want no room to question anything that is in front of you. You should simply believe only what they sit in front of you, and you should not question it.
Right.
That's what is happening right now. They only want you to be exposed to certain things. We have this whole country is set up where critical thinking, the enlightenment, and all of it, and all of these different aspects of who we are as a country is based on you being able to examine what you are taught and decide whether or not you agree with it, or if you need to enhance it, or if you need to pull back on it, or if you need to look at it from a different perspective. They do not want that to be the case.
No.
Anyone who wants you to believe that Texas won the Civil War, that's an issue. Okay? Texas did not win the Civil War. The Union won the Civil War. Texas just didn't hear about it. We did not have technology back then, or advanced technology, i.e., even though we had telegraphs, but you know what? Out on the battlefield, they didn't have access to those kinds of
They
things.
were on the water, so
Yeah, but the thing about it is, you always want your children to be able to exercise critical thinking. When they ask you, Mom, Dad, why is this this way? Instead of saying, you know what, go and look up something about this, find some information about it, and then them coming back and saying, well, this is what I saw about this, but then it said this over here. You have children who are able to put a lot of different ideas together and come up with their own truth,
right.
and their own expression of what is correct and what is right, and what is vital.
And for those of you who follow me and you saw the video that I made, I know I wasn't coherent when I was speaking, because I was so angry. I was like, as a history teacher, I was angry at the curriculum that I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And I was angry simply because as a history teacher, I don't know how you walk in these classrooms. And I'll mind you, you're paying taxpayers $3.8 million for this curriculum change. Because this whole curriculum change now is going to require a different set of materials. So all the materials that teachers were once using to teach, that will be obsolete for this new curriculum. They're going to train teachers on how to teach this new curriculum. All of this is costing them at the moment, and this is what they speculate at the moment. We haven't really divulged into the actual numbers, but so far it's going to cost you taxpayers $3.8 million. And this is the problem with the no property taxes. You don't have a say in this. This is coming out of your tax dollars. So just imagine what happens when Texas actually does try to take over the schools. You won't have a say in anything.
And ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. When you don't think that your vote counts, or you think that all of that is over your head, you need to, right now we have a system whereby, do you remember, Rebecca, when we were in school, if your mother wanted to come up to that school and sit in your class and be there with you and see what your history class was like, or what your math class was like, and come down and visit the school, that was welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
Encouraged. Parents are not welcomed into the schools in
HISD
right now. So, anytime that someone doesn't want you to see what's going on,
if parents can't even eat lunch with their children.
If you are feeling 100% validated about what you are putting out there, it's something that you should be proud of. You should want to display that.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you don't want people to see it, or that means, to me, Rebecca, I hate to oversimplify it, but that means you got something to hide.
No, that's not an oversimplification. That is what it is.
Yeah.
right? So if you're telling me that I can't, and I've had friends of mine who have children in HISD call me up and say, Rebecca, what is this?
Right.
You know, I'm paying their tax dollars. And you have some of them that say, I hate to be their parent, and I have to stop them in their track and say, no, this is what you're supposed to complain about,
Right.
as a taxpayer. You don't owe no apologies for that. But when you have people who will not allow you to see your children or be in your children or even come and ask, even they have now shortened the parent teacher time. Parent teacher conference, you can meet with a child's parent the whole conference period, the whole hour and 45 minutes of conference period.
If you only had that parent to meet with, yes.
Right. Now they're saying that parents can't even, the parent conferences has to be limited to 15 minutes.
Well, and you know, but and here's the thing, and that's our point. The point that we're getting to is this: the more that you don't vote, the more that you uphold this type of ideology, this type of organization, the more that you are relinquishing your power. What you never want to do, and I was always taught this as from the time that I was very simple: don't ever willingly give someone else your power.
Right.
When you do not vote, if you can if you can wait in a nail salon for an hour and a half, an hour, while people, let me, I'm going with this, while people are in front of you. If you can go to the hair salon, if you can go and sit in line and wait in line at the Astros game or whatever, for it to open. If you can go to a concert, the rodeo, you can stand in line 20 minutes, even 45 minutes to vote. I've waited longer. If I know that my vote is going to be the difference in whether or not someone's going to be able to drag me by the nose, with a hook through my nose and not give me an opportunity to express what I want done, if that is going to be the end result, I will wait overnight. I will wait longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
And Rebecca, like I said, maybe it's being oversimplified, but there are things that we elect to sit and wait for, that we will give our time to, but we'll give our power away.
Right. So here's the bottom line. And it's so demoralizing, right?
Yeah.
But you have power, right? And your power is in your vote.
It is.
All of the things that are happening can be solved. It's not without, well, they're gonna do what they want to do anyway.
I hate that. Hold on. That attitude. Yeah.
They will do whatever they want to do if you allow them to do that.
Thank you.
Right? And if you allow them to do that. And the way you allow them to do that is not go vote.
That's right.
Yes, they are going to do exactly what they want to do.
That's right. Because
you've allowed them to do that. One thing, I was having a conversation with one of my best friends this week, and one thing, she asked me, she said, Rebecca, what is the purpose of all of this? Why are they doing all of this? Like, what are they gaining from this, right? And I sat with that for like 2 or 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, here's the flow of it. They don't want children educated, because when children are educated, they tend to go to college or to the military, or they enter trade school.
And they question their circumstances.
Right. Then they learn how to think. College basically teaches you how to process all the information.
Right.
Okay. The research methods of all of this. When there's a fully educated society, you can't tell a fully educated society anything and they're going to believe.
That's right.
They
question their circumstances.
Right.
That's right.
You can put information out there, but they are going to follow up on the information.
That's right.
When you're uneducated or you're ignorant to things,
right?
Okay,
you'll take it at face value.
You'll take it at face value. all of this fake news and people wonder why people fall for fake news and misinformation all the time. And I will tell, and this is just Rebecca 101, this is where my thinking is about our country. We, whether we want to admit it or not, we have an anti-intellectual problem in this country. Okay.
And in the last 10 years, it's gotten worse.
Right. People are comfortable in their ignorance. And they're so comfortable in their ignorance, they're boastful about it.
And they will systematically watch little by little rights being taken away, little by little. Now, they didn't initially do it all at one time.
Right.
But that's what Project 2025 was. It's a systematic dismantling of people's rights.
Right. So the longer I can tell you the sky is purple, if you don't have enough sense to look up and see that it's blue, you'll say it's purple and you will run with it and you will come up with videos and dissertations and spread this misinformation and convince other people that the sky is purple. So this is what, and
it's because you trust other people's intellect instead of your own.
Right.
You don't ever, there's not a man out there that's smarter than me. There may be a person that has more information than me and that has more experience, but nobody is smarter.
Right.
Okay? Because if I seek out that same information, if I go and get that same level of experience, I'm going to be able to make different types of decisions too. You want your children to always question their circumstances. Don't just say, because I will never forget, Rebecca. I was in a classroom, and it was when I was at Fondren Middle School in HISD, and this was only a few years ago. And there were, we were getting ready to prepare for the STAR test. And I said this to my students. And this was something that I said to motivate my students. I said, guys, please understand this and understand this well. There are people out there. Now, the students that I taught were students of color. Okay, they were Black, brown kids, Asian kids, South Asian kids. They were basically all students of color.
Right.
And this is what I said to them. There are people out there who believe that because you look the way that you look, that you are inherently not as smart as the next guy. There are people who believe that. And I said, now, raise your hand if you think that just because of the color of your skin, you're not as smart as someone who looks like this. I will never forget, I had about 2 young men, not the girls, who raised their hand and said, I'm not as smart as them. And, to know that we were sitting in 2020, 2022, 23, and there were some kids who had consumed that Kool-Aid already in the 8th grade, who had been conditioned to believe that because of the color of their skin, not the circumstances surrounding them, that they were not as intelligent.
Oh, I told you about the experiment I did. We were taught when we had the lesson on frame of reference, bias, and point of view. And I had, oh my God, I think it was the most powerful lesson I ever taught. Mm-hmm. But we had children of both backgrounds that felt that a whole nother background was smarter than them. And not only were they smarter than them, they made more money than them, and life was better for them.
Well, but the thing about it is, unfortunately, that is their frame of reference.
Yeah.
That's what they saw every day. Now, many of the kids that I teach are not from middle class Black and brown families. They're not. They're from economically disadvantaged. So it's my job to let them know that they can be a part of this American dream too, regardless of their circumstances that they've come from. That's my job as a teacher. I don't teach kids to stay where they are. I teach kids and try to empower them to move to whatever station in life they want to be at, knowing that nothing is outside of their grasp.
Right.
But to know that I was already pushing that wheel, I mean pushing that rock uphill with a child that's 12 years old, 13 years old, that's difficult. But ladies and gentlemen, understand this, that all comes from you getting out there and voting.
You know what? And I remember a long time ago, I was in the classroom. I was substitute teaching. And this was the year Barack Obama was running.
Okay.
Well, before then, I was before then.
Okay.
I was beginning of '08.
Okay.
I was substitute teaching a class, and I had one eighth grader at the time. He's married now. Lord, it's a long time ago. But I had an eighth grader at that time. So I mean, Miss Williams, why do y'all sit up here and tell us we can be whatever we want to be? We don't even have a black president. Why y'all lying? And I was at the time, it was very comical when he said it the way he said it.
Right.
But I was, and I could easily say, well, we have a black man that's running in the primary for president.
Yes.
And isn't that good? And he was like, well, he ain't gonna win because he. So that opened my eyes at that particular time. That opened my eyes to why voting is so important,
Right.
and why representation matters. Because for the longest time, I'm sure children across the nation, before Barack Obama came along, children across the nation, even if they didn't have enough guts to ask that question,
Yeah.
it was on their mind.
Absolutely.
Y'all keep telling us we can be anything we want to be. Why has there not been a black president? You keep telling us we can be anything we want to be. Why is there not a black woman sitting on the Supreme Court?
And the thing about it is, people need to know this too. We don't need to refrain from teaching this. There were people who paved the way for Barack Obama to be there.
Right.
Shirley Chisholm, the Jesse James.
Right.
Even though people may not have felt that they had a prayer.
Right.
But they had the audacity to get out and do it.
Right. So when again, I said, and I want people to understand what I'm saying. Before Barack Obama came along, these were questions that were like being asked.
Right.
Okay, you saying this is a part of the American dream, but why is there not a black president? Or why there's not a kid? And then you have Hispanic kids who've asked me.
Of course.
You're saying I could be whatever I want to be, but there's not a Latino president. We just barely had a black president. So.
And the thing about it is, as the way that our Constitution, in the state that it sits right now, no one who is not a natural born citizen of America could ever be president.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but a Latino born American.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You got Latino kids that are still asking.
Absolutely. But you know what? There are a lot of people who are maybe the kids that came in as infants, who are thriving right now. So, stellar students and professionals who would never have that opportunity. But I digress. That's a completely different.
But the point that I was making with that, I just wasn't bringing it up. The point that I was making is that this is why voting matters. This is why representation matters. Because we are and I agree with so many sentiments online. In 2026, there shouldn't be a first black anything. In 2026, there shouldn't be a first Latino anything. In 2026, there shouldn't be a first Asian anything. If we are a melting pot like we say we are, then everybody has to have a chance and an opportunity to step up and make a difference in some type of capacity.
And we need to not try to curtail that experience. We need to be trying to push that forward, not take that away.
Exactly.
From people. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what's happening. Things are being taken away.
It's being attempted. It sure is.
It's being, because you have a sector of society that believes that another sector of society shouldn't have anything, or they shouldn't be in a position of any type of power to have anything. They feel like that's their birthright to have.
And let me say this, you know, it's few and far between times when I have said that I felt proud of something that the sitting Supreme Court has done. But this past week, I was so happy to see that the Supreme Court upheld birthright citizenship because we had the powers that be who were trying to go back and rewrite the 14th Amendment that said that if you are born on American soil, you are automatically an American. And our president was trying to completely, so how many people would that affect? Retroactively, how many people would that affect?
Has to be 200 plus million Americans.
You know, and the thing about it is, I'm so glad, but what was interesting are the ones that voted against it. Who was one of the main ones that stuck out that voted against it that you would think would have upheld that? Who?
Clarence Thomas.
Absolutely. Clarence Thomas voted against birthright citizenship. That's what the founding fathers put in the Constitution. Everybody who came over on the Mayflower or the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, everybody came from somewhere else. That's before we even had standardized citizenship where you went through a process. You know, we just landed here, and if we were here, boom, we were citizens. You know, but there are people who are sitting in positions of power and prominence right now who would venture as to not want people who were born here to have, if their parents weren't born here, to have automatic citizenship.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. And it's not even mind-boggling to me. I understand what it is because they want to move the country backwards. They feel like too many.
That's against all the laws of nature.
Right.
Yeah.
They feel like it's too many people. You have a certain sector of people who feel like leadership, ownership, and control is their birthright. And anybody else who has that should not have it, and it should not be given to them. And Dr. Eddie Gillard, I have so much respect for him. He just now started earning my respect.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that we have to get real about, we have to be, America cannot move forward until we address our racism, our misogyny, and our xenophobic.
Right.
We can't. You know, as much as all of the progressive policies that are being passed.
Well, I'm gonna counter that for a second, Rebecca, and I'm gonna say the natural flow of things, it's going to force it to move forward, but we are going to be fighting against ourselves if we don't embrace it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We have to have an honest conversation,
right,
about what's going on, because there's a reason why people are trying to stop a moving train.
right.
Now, we know it can't be done, but there are people, there are forces that are putting in place that's trying to. Why are you trying to stop a moving train?
Exactly.
What is the reason for it? And the reason for it is this, because certain people feel like other people shouldn't have anything unless it's coming from them. And I don't think enough people
Gatekeepers
are honest about that. They feel if the masses have equitable, and notice I didn't say equal, I said if the masses had equitable resources, had equitable, well, that's the only word I can come up with, equitable resources, equitable opportunities, equitable, even though we all have equitable talent, we have equitable intelligence.
But somehow they've lost.
Somehow they are lost and be put in the background. And dare I say, they don't want to feel like the minority because they know what they have infringed on the minority, and they want to get that treatment back. That's just Rebecca
And,
101.
and yeah, that's Rebecca 101. But the thing about it is, like Rebecca said, she started that statement with saying you can't stop a moving train. There are some things that are laws of nature. And if you just look at the sheer demographics and numbers and birth rate, you can tell that things are going to be different very, 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 very soon. And people are going to have to reach out. I implore anyone who is um, a person who maybe sits in a minority right now. Don't encourage your kids to get as much education as they can. And
While they can.
and also, and there's nothing wrong with the trades. Don't get me wrong, but you can have a trade and a college degree.
Right.
Okay, my niece just finished from Wichita State University in 2024. She just got her a degree in business, and she went back to school and got her certification for being a nail technician because she's an artist. She loves to do that, and she started marketing herself to different salons in the area where she lives in Kansas. But there is nothing wrong with having a college education as well as a skill. Let me tell you why. The thing about having a skill, Rebecca, is this. If you ever are incapacitated to the place where you can't perform that skill, your income stops.
Yeah.
If you're a plumber and you break your leg or you fall and break an arm or a leg or break your back or you're incapacitated or have an accident, your income stops.
Completely.
If you are a AC technician and you have an accident or anything happens to you where you cannot physically perform that task, your income stops. When you have a college education, that is working with your mind. And you can, if you are sitting from a wheelchair, ask Stephen Hawking, okay? You can still earn a living. You can still get a job done with computers and all kinds of things of technology that we have now. So I would never discourage anyone from pursuing their passion. Like I said, my niece just did. I mean, last week she got her license to be a nail technician.
Congratulations.
Yes, she did. And she started her job on this past Monday. But she knows she's got that entrepreneurial business degree in her back pocket from Wichita State.
Right.
Okay. So if anything ever happened, or if she just decided, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired of, it's not fun anymore, I can go and take that degree and start my own business or do whatever I want to or work within an entity and still have a way to make a living.
And I have a friend that did that too. She got a degree in chemistry, and she started developing her own hair care products.
Yeah.
And a business for her. She's a multi-millionaire now.
Booming. Yeah.
Business is booming. But she said herself, one day I'm going to stop doing this and I'm going to go work in a chem lab. She also
developing things.
Yeah, she also she just completed a master's degree in chemistry too. I didn't even know you could do that. But
so, and what we're saying is that don't discourage if your children show aptitude for going on to higher education, encourage that. They can do that along with right now Houston City College. Which was a community college, a 2-year college for 50 years.
Yeah.
They are now offering bachelor's degrees in certain disciplines.
Right.
Encourage your students to do that because to have more education than you need that's just going to give you more options.
Right. And also, and then let me say this, the very people that are discouraging you all from sending your kids to college, you do understand they have their children in college, right?
And they got college degrees.
And they have college degrees themselves. The very people that's telling you college are a scam are lawyers. Yeah. The very people that are telling you college is a scam are Rhodes scholars.
That's right.
Like, I want us to be clear about one thing my dad had always taught me.
They want to have it, but they don't want you to have it. Because if you have it, that means you question their authority.
Right. One thing my dad always taught me, you never enter a situation with lack of information.
Right.
Okay, you never enter a situation with lack of information because that's how you're going to be screwed every time.
Right.
My dad has been telling me that since I was a little girl,
Mhm.
and it has paid off tremendously. Because now at first I really didn't understand what he was saying, but now as an adult I do understand what he was saying.
And what was he saying?
And basically what he was saying was you don't go into any situation without knowing what you're getting into.
Right.
You need to have information when you're making a
Do
decision.
your fact finding.
Right. You can only do that if you have critical thinking skills.
That's right.
And the problem is a lot of our children, through no fault of their own, we're in school and that is being taken out of what teaching is supposed to be. We're not teaching those basic critical thinking skills. We're not teaching them to think outside of a smartphone or a touch tone laptop, right? We're not teaching them to put things together and synthesize information.
And Rebecca, let me say this, and then, guys, we are out of time, but let me say this. And if Carlin is still watching, I want to say this. I have, Carlin's father in Prairie View ran a print shop for at least, I think 40 years, right there on the campus of Prairie View A&M University. The print shop was right there. And but he was a graduate of Prairie View A&M University with a 4-year degree, and he decided that he wanted to take up the trade of printing and own his own print. So that's my point. He taught for a while too before he opened the print shop. Um, um, our mechanic that we had for many, many years, who was right there on the corner of Airport and Scott Street. Mr. Durham. Hi, Mr. Durham. Mr. Durham was a college graduate of Prairie View. He was in school with my mother. And he had an auto mechanic shop. He got his degree in, I think in auto mechanics back then, but it was a 4-year degree. But he got his degree and then he decided he wanted to open up his own auto mechanic shop.
Right.
So if, we're not saying that it's got to be either or. But if you have a student who has the aptitude and they have the opportunity to go to college, we don't want to discourage them from doing so.
Right. And we one of the things, Lisa and I was talking about this week.
Mhm.
Hey, Lisa. Lisa and I was talking. Lisa is the teacher that we worked with.
Yes. I still work with her.
Crystal still works with her. One of the things that we talked about this week, we were talking about this very subject, and why people, why we're discouraging, people from going to college, and like we said, people are discouraging it because they don't want children to have those critical thinking skills. They don't want them to question authority.
That's right.
People want them to have the
ultimate control,
authority on what is happening.
Right.
But it's okay for you, like Crystal said, it's okay for you to have a trade, and
Absolutely.
it's okay for you to go to college and pursue something, even if you go for 1 or 2 years, because you can go to college for 2 years and become a firefighter. You can go to college 2 years and become a police officer.
And the thing about it is, we've got a very good friend who is a fire inspector now with Haze, with Houston Fire Department. We've got a very good friend who was with the Harris County Sheriff's Department. He retired as a lieutenant with the Harris County Sheriff's Department. He ran for county commissioner a few years ago. And those would be considered trade jobs.
Right.
Okay. But they went and they got their degrees. So they not only can they move up the ladder, but they have a technical degree and an academic degree.
Exactly. So we are telling you these things simply because education is extremely important. Mike Miles said something that pissed me off when he first got there. I'm sorry, Crystal, I had to use that word. But he literally fixed his mouth and said that I am tired of us graduating welders and hairdressers. It upset me very much because one of my parents, one of my students' parents, I call them my parents too, he owned his own welding company.
Right.
And when I tell you he was good to Miss Williams,
Yeah.
anything that I needed for my classroom, I don't think that year I had to really go into my own pocket and buy anything because he went and supplied. Every month he would come in and say, "Okay, Miss Williams, what you need? Here's the list of everything I can give. Check off what you need." So I don't like when people do stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't want to discount anyone's occupation,
Right.
At all.
But you have leaders who look down on other people's profession. That and I was not ever one to do that, but that was a prime example to me that we can't discourage or discount other people because of the profession that they have, because he made my life so much easier that year. So,
but Rebecca, can you give me a closing thought on, when we always end on this, but it's a reason that we end with this. Ladies and gentlemen, November is coming up. Rebecca and
November is also my birthday.
Yes. but Rebecca and I were out at a big festival in Cloverland Park 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. And with that festival, we were able to register about 10 voters. When we have the opportunity, we get out there. I'm a volunteer deputy registrar here in Harris County.
And I will work on it.
And she's going to do it. I've been trying to make her do it forever, but she's going to do it.
I am.
But everywhere that we go, every event that we go to, we have our things with us. If anyone is, and people don't realize this, someone posted this yesterday on, I'm trying to remember, a young lady who is a community leader here in Houston, but she, Paula McCann Harris, I believe, she posted something yesterday saying, "You better beware of what is going on." She received something, and her sister and her nephew received something in the mail. And she said it looked like a piece of junk mail, but when they decided to open it up, it was something saying that you need to go in and check your status, your voting status, because if your name is not exactly as it appears on your a driver's license and voter registration card, you will be purged from the system. And she said, "Well, you know what? I know and that was not all. It said something like, you need to go in and click this link to make sure that you have verified this." So even if your name was the same and you didn't go in and click the link and verify it, it would have you in a suspended status.
Right.
It's ridiculous. People are trying to take away your voting rights. So look at the mail that's coming through your mailbox. If it says anything from the county clerk, I don't care if it looks like a sales paper. Go in and see exactly what is going on. HarrisVotes.org. HarrisVotes.org. Put your telephone number in there. You can do it by your address. You can do it by your last name. You can do it by your date of birth or your social. Put it in there, and you can do it yourself. You can do it on your phone. HarrisVotes.org. And you verify that you are still registered. You may show up at the polls in November, and someone will tell you that you are not eligible to vote anymore. People are doing whatever is within their power to try to take away your voting rights. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to be on top of that yourself.
Yes. So we are going to close out. I'm just going to I'm going to steal a phrase from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. A voteless people is a hopeless people.
That's true.
If you do not go out and vote, everything that happens to you, you cannot complain about. You can complain, but just know that you could have made a difference. There have been so many.
You got to shut up and take it.
Right.
And I hate to put it like that. If you don't stand in the position to defend your rights, then all you can do is shut up and take it.
There are so many elected officials now who have won by 100 votes, good and bad.
35, 40 votes sometimes.
40 votes. And just imagine if those 40 or 50 people, or even I was reading somewhere in Nebraska where the Democratic representative, he's representative now, won by 3 votes.
See?
Now, just imagine if those 3 people say,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm not voting today.
Yeah.
Or it's too late. I'm not, I got, made an excuse why they couldn't vote. So you need to go out and vote. Our very democracy, and I know people say this all the time, and now it's starting to sound like a cliche instead of what reality is.
Mhm.
But truly, if you do not go out and vote, this will be the last stench of democracy.
And that is not what we want. And please take this into consideration. When you look at the two parties, understand that there has been a hijacking, a literal hijacking of one of the two major parties by a faction that is a really rogue faction. And that's why you have even former presidents who are part of that party who won't even come forward and acknowledge being affiliated now. That's saying something.
Right.
When you have former presidents who were proudly part of a party, and the thing about it is we've always been a two-party system, sometimes more than two parties, and we pride ourselves on being able to come together and work things out so that everybody has got a piece of power.
Exactly.
Okay? But when you have former presidents, living presidents, who said, I am going to recuse myself from even appearing at a convention, or because it's been hijacked by a fringe faction, that's saying something. So in order to get back and to reclaim what your party has been about, you may need to do something a little bit differently this time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. What we're going to be doing, probably starting and when we're going to have to kind of go through some trial stages of this, but starting in August, we are going to be having the podcast where it's native to YouTube to get a much, much broader audience, and then transfer it to Facebook and to Instagram, but be native to YouTube. Because remember, for Facebook and Instagram, you've got to have an account. Okay. On YouTube, you can just log in and look at whatever you want to look at. So that gets our viewership to many, many, many more people. But if you need to comment on anything we've said, we will answer any and all comments. Rebecca, like we say every week. Well, first of all, thank you for tuning in. And like we say every week, Rebecca, what?
We can do it.
We can do it.